Thank you so much, Dion. And I would really want to thank everybody for joining us and honoring us with your time, especially our esteemed speakers, for the work that you are doing with us, not only in this webinar, sharing your insights and expertise, but I think also dating back to when we started to engage together before this webinar and around other electoral and feminist conversations taking place on the continent. So according to the Electoral Institute for Sustainable Democracy in Africa, they say that there have been a total of 20 elections in 2025 on the African continent. 18 of these elections have already been held. One is yet to be held in December in the Central African Republic. The latest one was held this 23rd November in Guinea-Bissau. And as of this morning, two presidential candidates, Umaro Sissoco Embalo and the other main contender, Fernando Diaz, are both claiming to have won the election and that there is no need for a runoff in the country. This is characteristic of most elections on the continent. Elections are contested and disputed. Autocratic governments are using violence to suppress political competition as well as citizens' voices. Parties are recycling candidates that people have rejected before. Electoral institutions in most parts of Africa are weak to protect the electoral process, and many people are losing faith in elections. But when you imagine the alternatives for choosing leaders democratically, particularly from a feminist perspective, we realize that elections remain one of the few options to express our choices. We cannot give up on elections because they are being abused and because they are being hijacked by autocratic leaders and systems. The big question then is, how should we make elections work for women? To discuss this question, we have feminists and women elections experts, as we have introduced, who have been actively engaged in some of the recent elections across the continent. And allow me to welcome and introduce Habiba Osman, who is an expert in human rights and gender. She is a trained lawyer, and she is the current executive secretary of the Human Rights Commission in Malawi. Habiba has previously worked with the UN Women and other international organizations as a gender human rights expert and advisor. We also have Chepkorir Sambu. I hope I pronounced your name well, Chepkorir. She is a lawyer, a researcher who specializes in conflicts, peace, politics, and regional integration in Eastern Africa, and has been following elections that have been happening in the East African region, as well as other complex situations that continue to characterize the East African region. We also have Susan Wamawa, who is a passionate young leader and serves as the executive director at the International Human Rights, at IPHRD Africa. Susan is actively involved in networks that engage in young women's participation in mediation, including the Young Women Mediation Network. And she has participated in electoral observations in Nigeria, in Kenya, as well as Malawi, as part of the African Women Leaders Forum's initiative to observe elections and offer feminist insights on elections. We also have Ngum Funiba, who's a lawyer in Cameroon. Ngum specializes in human rights development and gender, including working on initiatives that are working to combat gender-based violence in Cameroon. Then last, but of course not least, we have Wilma Chihenda. Wilma is a community activist advocating for the participation of young women in grassroots communities in Malawi. She also participated in the African Women Leaders Forum election observations in Malawi this September. And clearly we can see that just based on the profiles of our speakers and their expertise, we do have rich insights in the room that would like to listen to and engage with in terms of thinking about how we can make people continue to have faith in elections and continue to believe that electoral processes remain a vital democratic process that we cannot give up simply because it's being abused. So I would like at this point to hand over back to Dion to invite our first speaker for today. Thank you and over.